4 kilometers beneath the Indian Ocean, in a lightless canyon, a pale thread coils through the freezing water. It spans longer than a blue whale, yet for most of modern history, this massive predator remained almost entirely invisible to us. For over a century, biologists studied the deep ocean by dragging heavy nets through the dark. That method works well for hard-bodied fish, but this creature is made almost entirely of water and fragile gossamer threads. Pull a net through its habitat, and you bring up a torn, unidentifiable smear of broken jelly scattered across the deck. Generations of scientists studied these creatures purely as wreckage, guessing at their true shape. They were trying to understand the architecture of a grand cathedral by sifting through a bucket of rubble. That blind spot remained until the autumn of 2020. A research vessel arrived off the remote coast, swapping destructive nets for deep-diving robotics. They deployed a remotely operated vehicle, sending it down 4.5 kilometers into permanent night, where the pressure would crush a standard submarine. Hanging undisturbed in the dark, cameras illuminated a glowing spiral. Measuring nearly 47 meters across, the researchers were looking at the longest animal ever recorded. This single, flowing form drifting through the water represents thousands of distinct lives moving as one. Biologists call this organism a siphonophore. Look closely at the smooth line of its body, and it resolves into a legion of tiny individual entities called zooids. Every single one of them is a genetically identical clone. Like most life, it begins with a single fertilized egg. But instead of growing into a standalone body, it buds. It copies itself thousands of times, and each new copy stays permanently tethered to a shared central stem. To survive in this connected state, each clone makes a permanent sacrifice. It abandons the ability to live on its own, stripping away all but a few traits so it can perform one specific task perfectly. At the front of the colony are the swimmers. These are pulsing, translucent bells that look like miniature jellyfish. They have no mouths and cannot eat. They exist solely to act in perfect coordination as a shared engine, propelling the 40-meter colony forward. Trailing behind them is the feeding section. These zooids are essentially mouths on stalks, equipped with long, stinging tentacles. When they catch prey, they digest it and pump the nutrients up through the common stem to feed the blind, mouthless swimmers. Each clone gives up its individual completeness. In return, they fuse together to form a highly ordered biological machine, dividing their labor to operate exactly like the organs of a singular apex predator. Drifting through the deep ocean requires this level of efficiency. Down here, food is desperately scarce. Fish are rare, widely scattered, and quick. You cannot afford to simply float and hope a meal blunders into your tentacles. To see how they solve this, we look to a different deep-sea siphonophore, studied by marine biologist Stephen Haddock at the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute in California. Examining a species called Erenna, Haddock noticed something attached to its fishing tentacles. Flickering and darting on thin stalks were tiny, glowing red blobs. These little structures replicate the swimming motion of deep-sea copepods. A hungry fish spots what looks like an easy shrimp dinner, swims up through the dark, and hits an invisible wall of stinging tentacles. The trap relies on a biological anomaly. Red light is quickly absorbed by seawater near the surface, and biologists long assumed deep-sea animals were blind to it. Yet the siphonophore produces exactly this color. The siphonophore survives the harshest environment on Earth, not by chasing food, but by using bioluminescence to convince its food to come to it. And this extreme interdependence raises a question. What physically happens if you cut the central stem, separating the swimmers from the feeders? Because of their deep specialization, not a single piece survives. The swimmers starve, the feeders are paralyzed, and the result is 1,000 small deaths. If every piece started as an independent bud, but no single piece can live for even an hour on its own, so what exactly counts as one animal? The siphonophore defies our terrestrial definitions of life, existing as a crowd and an individual in the same breath. The alien strangeness of the siphonophore is a direct reflection of our own biology. Your body is a colony of 30 trillion highly specialized cells, all descended from a single fertilized egg. A human muscle cell can no more survive alone than a siphonophore swimming bell. We hold our cellular colony together inside a single layer of skin, while the siphonophore unspools its members across 45 meters of open water. The difference is a matter of arrangement. The glowing spiral challenges the rules we invented for being alive, proving the deep sea holds wonders we are only just beginning to comprehend.